only been here one day, right? But we're already friends. How, my friends, does PepsiCo make money? Remember the business model of the apartment building. What's the business model of the apartment building? You make the building, you pay all your maintenance and property taxes, all this kind of stuff you pay for, and your tenants pay your rent.
Yeah.
That's your business model. For PepsiCo, what do you think their business model is? Selling what? Selling large quantities of what? Of products. What kind of products? Snacks, soda, potato chips, coffee. They don't really sell coffee. Well, they sell like the Starbucks in the bottles, but they're not Starbucks. They don't sell the... Yeah. All that kind of stuff is PepsiCo. So selling this stuff, and what do you think? Just what do you think is the cost of these products that PepsiCo sells? Like, let's do a bottle of Pepsi. I just saw somebody had one over there. A bottle of Pepsi. How much do you think? How much did you pay for that bottle of Pepsi?
$175.
Okay, so let's suppose that Seton Hall will be very generous here and works at 100% profit margin. So let's assume that that bottle of Pepsi costs Seton Hall. It's actually not Seton Hall, it's the concessionaire, but we'll just say Seton Hall. Costs about half of that. Or PepsiCo sells them bottles of Pepsi for 88 cents. Now tell me this. What do you think are PepsiCo's costs to make that bottle of PepsiCo? What are some of the things PepsiCo has to pay for?
Electricity.
Electricity? Is that the first thing that comes to mind? Gee, a lot of electricity went into this can of soda. So one thing is sugar. How much? Well, actually, sugar is a little expensive. So use high fructose corn syrup again, HFCS. How much do you think the high fructose corn syrup costs in that bottle of Pepsi? Just guess.
5 cents.
Okay, 5 cents worth of sugar or sweetener. What else? Water. How much do you think that water costs?
3 cents.
It's just public water, right? Do you think that's spring water?
Never know.
No, that's public water, but they do have to pay for it. Let's say it's 1 cent. What else?
Okay.
The bottle, right? How much do you think that little bottle cost?
8 cents.
You think so? 8 cents? 5 cents? We're dealing with a bottle here. This is the expensive one. 88 cents. This costs $1.75. How much do you think that physical bottle and cap costs with the label?
10 cents.
10 cents?
Yeah, back to 5 cents.
All right, so in order that we don't have a full-fledged brawl break out here, let's say 7 cents, right? What else? Any other costs? There's the food coloring. What do you think the food coloring costs in a single bottle? 1 cent. And how about those flavorings? 1 cent. Anything else? Label. How much labor you think went into a bottle of Pepsi? Don't you just picture all of these workers sweating over the bottles of Pepsi as they're pouring them in one by one? It's all just a machine. It just goes through. There's no people who work there. There's like an engineer who runs the whole thing, and if it breaks, they fire him and they fire someone else. I don't know. Any other? Wait. So far, you're only at 13, 14. You're at 16 cents so far. So PepsiCo is charging 88 cents for this thing. There's got to be another cost here someplace. The carbon, the bubbles, right? That's the expensive part. What do you think it costs to carbonate this thing?
3 cents. 10 cents.
It's air, for crying out loud. It's just air. It's free. I'm sorry. All right, let's say the carbonation process costs 2 cents, and that includes a little electricity, okay? Anything else? How about shipping? How much does it cost to ship that bottle of Pepsi from PepsiCo bottling plant to campus? They got a big truck, right? It's got a few hundred cases of soda on it. They got to pay the worker. Well, let's say, what do you think they pay the worker for a day?
For a day?
Yeah, what do you think they pay the driver for a day's shipping?
Let's say.
Probably makes more than that.
If he's got a CDL, he's making more than minimum wage.
Let's say that they, not he, that's sexist. They, all right, are making $20 an hour, and they work 8 hours a day. So they get paid $160. Add fringe benefits, it comes to $240 a day. How many bottles of soda do you think he can deliver? They can deliver in one day? They probably could do at least 2 or 3 truckloads, right? Let's say there's, I'm just guessing here, 2,000 in a truckload. They could do 3 truckloads in a day. So $240. Oh, and let's add gas to this too. 240. Let's say gas is another $250. So the cost of paying the driver and keeping the truck full of gas is $490 a day. And that in one day, they can ship 6,000 bottles of stuff. That's 8 cents each. All right, so the total cost of this bottle of Pepsi is 5, 6, 13, 14, 15, 17, 25 cents. Leaving 53 cents worth of gross profit. So you're pretty close, actually, because if you look at Pepsi's overall numbers, this is their business model, by the way. It's a startling business model. Sales revenue is $57 billion. Cost of goods sold is less than half, $26 billion. So gross profit is $31 billion. So that would come to means the gross profit is 31.26 billion divided by 57.84 billion, or 54%. So for every dollar they take in, 54 cents is gross profit. That's the Pepsi business model now. You got it? Now look at all the products. This is pretty amazing. Look at all the products again that Pepsi makes and sells. Let's go back. Actually, I don't even know if I still. Here we go. What do these things all have one thing in common? Do you realize what it is? Except for maybe orange juice. All of these things are really cheap to make, and they have a big markup. You think Gatorade is any more expensive to make than Pepsi? I mean, and Aquafina, is that a scam or what? Sorry, I don't mean to embarrass you, but it's just water. And if you read the bottle, look at where the water came from. It's from public water supply. They just filter it. It's aqua filtered or whatever. It's water. So their business model is to sell really cheap junk at exorbitant prices. And look at how successful they are. Even look at the other products here. Potato chips. Is there any vegetable that's cheaper than potatoes? Corn. And what do you have? You have corn chips. That's the other thing, right? All this Tostitos and Cheetos, what is that? Corn. That's all corn. And what do they make the soda out of for sweetener? Is corn sweetener. So all this stuff, almost all of it, has this basic business model of manufacturing really cheap junk and selling it at a very significant markup. Why do customers pay so much money for Pepsi? Yeah, the brand itself has a certain amount of goodwill. So if we look back at this income statement again, you'll see that this SG&A is huge, $22 billion. It's almost as much as cost of goods sold. Do you know what that is? Yeah, I'll look at that as a percentage of sales. 22.3 divided by 57.8. 38% of sales. You know what that is? That's sales people and marketing and advertising. So they spend, this is amazing, they spend almost as much money on marketing and advertising as they spend on the product itself. Now if you look at this, is more mind-boggling, is perfume and cologne and beauty products and you look at a company like Estee Lauder, right? That stuff costs nothing to make. It costs nothing to make perfume. It's water with a few things in it. It is water, I'm telling you. All right, a bottle of perfume, the perfume itself costs less than $1. The bottle may cost a couple bucks, like 2 or 3. All right? And then they charge you what? 40, 50. So where's their expense? Advertising. It's all advertising. It's all the magazine ads that you pay. You know the magazine ads where you rip off the thing and then the whole house stinks, right? Or paying those salespeople in a department store who spritz you when you walk in and out. Oh, do you want to try eau de cologne or whatever? And you're like, no, please, I don't want to stink. And they're like, no, please. Well, those people get paid, right? So when you pay $50, $60 for a bottle of perfume, you're really paying, most of your money is either going towards profit or it's really going towards marketing and advertising. And that's a business model. By the way, I'm not commenting on if it's good or bad, or, I spray myself so I don't stink in the morning, and I drink Coke, which is just as much of a ripoff as Pepsi is. We all do it, but that's the business model. The business model is to spend a lot of money on advertising to create a certain perception in the customer's head, so the customer is willing to pay $1.75 for a 20-ounce bottle of water or soda, right? Figure this out. Why does water cost this? Why do they charge the same amount of money for water as they charge for soda? Right? It doesn't even make any sense when you think about it rationally. But they create the impression that, hey, it's Aquafina water. I don't want to drink out of the water fountain, right? So that's the business model. Now let's just go over the ideas here in accounting terms. Sales revenue is the amount you receive from your customers from selling the products that you normally sell them. That's what revenue is. And you're in the business, when you're running a company, you're in the business of earning revenue. It's a constant issue. How are you going to bring in those revenues? Expenses are the cost of creating those revenues. So we've talked about these things. How do you get customers to buy your product, to buy a bottle of Pepsi? The way you do that, the way you get customers to buy a bottle of Pepsi is you advertise it all over the place. And customers see it, and someone goes to the ball game and they see there's a sign there for Pepsi, and like, oh wow, I'm thirsty. Or it just creates a certain image in their head that this is what Pepsi is about. This is what Gatorade is all about, fitness and staying in shape, right? And so I want to be a fit person, I'm going to buy Gatorade, and I'm going to pay $1.75 a bottle for it. So part of it is the cost of goods sold. You actually have to make a product in order to sell it. But part of it is also going to be this SG&A, selling, general, administrative, advertising. Part of it is R&D, finding out what customers like and creating products that customers are going to want to buy. And that's also an important issue. You can see that PepsiCo doesn't spend much money on R&D. But the idea of the expenses is that these expenses create revenues. Net income is the difference. Revenues minus expenses equals net income. Okay, take a second right now and fill out these questions. Circle whether the account is a revenue, expense, or if it's nothing. So wage expense, what is that? Revenue, expense? Expense. Inventory. It's not. What is inventory? It's an asset on your balance sheet. Cost of goods sold. Revenue or expense? Expense. Service revenue. Revenue. Rent expense. Building. Nah, what is building? Asset. The company reports how many revenue accounts? Just one. And how many expense accounts? 5. Cost of goods sold, SG&A, R&D, Other operating expense, and believe it or not, provision for income tax is also an expense. Sorry, that's life. Beverages and snacks were sold to customers for how much? 56 billion? 57,838. Because that's your sales revenue. Oops. That's your sales revenue. And how much did those snacks cost PepsiCo to produce? 26,575. The title of the largest expense account is? I'll give you one more shot. Cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold, even though it doesn't have the word expense in it, it's still an expense. So how much cost of goods sold do we have? 26,575. And that's usually the largest item for any kind of retail industry. For companies within the retail industry. Service companies, what's the difference between a retail company and a service company? Do you know?
Service companies, tangible goods.
Right. Service companies don't sell, retail companies sell tangible goods, service companies do not. So a department store would be a retail company. A manufacturer would be, they call it manufacturer, but it's like a retail company. A service company, what would be an example of a service company?
Or Goldman Sachs.
Goldman Sachs, perfect. They don't sell a physical product. A bank, Scene Hall is a service industry, company within the service industry. So what kinds of costs, we talked about this before, water, high fructose corn syrup, coloring. Any other ideas? What? Labor. Carbon dioxide. Was PepsiCo profitable? We didn't even talk about this. Yeah. And to the tune of, you ready for this? $6,320,000,000. Net income can also be referred to as earnings.